Shabbat Shalom, Good Shabbos, Bruchim Habayim. Welcome everybody to our Kabbalat Shabbat service at 6 p.m. This is special. This is a new thing. We are here. It is 6 p.m. Don't show up here at 6:30 because we'll be in the middle of services. So don't do that. But this is a very special evening, especially because we are going to be offering a wedding blessing to people who are going to get married pretty soon. And that's our own Laura Rosenberg and Ben Wildman, right? Pretty soon. Pretty soon. Real soon. And it's even more special because there's a baby in the room. And I love that because I love having services with babies in the room. And this is the first time in a long time I've done services with a baby in the room, and I'm excited. Welcome, everybody. We are ready to begin Shabbat, mark the beginning of Shabbat. And in order to do that, we are going to light our Shabbat candles. If you yourself have candles at home that you would like to light at this time, this is now the time to get ready and get your candles ready. Yeah, I'm learning how to do this. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light. And we join in together with the blessing for our Shabbat candles. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher kitchanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, who sanctifies us with mitzvot and commands us to kindle lights of Shabbat.
Amen. And now we are going to the sanctification of the day. And I'm going to ask those who are in the those who are in the congregation. We have people.
You exist.
We have people in the congregation. Still, we are getting things back. Things are getting back. So we're going to ask everybody in the congregation, and if the baby wants to stand too, it's okay too, unless they can't. And one of the great images that one has wine is that, as I like to say, wine represents the ink on which we insert this time when we are going to be experiencing a wedding coming up, a chatunah coming up over this particular weekend. There's going to be some signing that's going to be done. There's going to be some wonderful metaphors of marriage that you will find in Shabbat as well during the course of our service. So it is a double celebration, triple celebration, always double celebration on Shabbat. So we sing together the Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodesho, be'ahavav ratzon, inchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit, ki hu yom tekiro, mikro kodesh, zecher tzion mitzrayim, kivanu v'korta ve'otanu idoshta mikol ha'onim v'shabbat Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh HaShabbat.
Amen.
And we say together, L'chaim.
L'chaim.
You heard that from people. L'chaim.
L'chaim, l'chaim. And you may be seated both here and at home. So, I have spent, as it turns out, a long time in Israel. I first visited in 8th grade as part of a pilot program called Ta'am Yisrael, a taste of Israel. We went for 10 days. And I visited again in college on Birthright, again for 10 days. And I accompanied once, many years ago, a child with disabilities as his one-on-one facilitator for his 8th grade trip, again for 10 days. There you go. 10 days. So then I spent my entire first year of rabbinical school living in Jerusalem for more than 10 days. It was more than 10 days. And I remember when my wife and I arrived and we finally settled, we passed out for about 6 hours. Then we woke up and we toured our new neighborhood. We lived in the German colony, Mosheva Germanit, and we lived on a real happening road or street that had restaurants and shops, and it was amazing. Each of us had only ever been in Israel 10 days, a 10-day excursion. So to be able to just walk around, no agenda, no schedule, no itinerary, it was amazing and it was a little bit strange. We were finally just in Israel. And I've been so lucky in my life to have spent so much time in Israel, and I've been incredibly lucky that I've never personally experienced or been around attacks or terrorism while there. My first trip had been in 1998. Sorry to date myself. When Saddam Hussein, of all people, I'm sorry to bring him up, had been firing chemical rockets into Israel. Now, both the weeks preceding and proceeding, see that, my visit, both those weeks, before I was there and after I was there, they passed out gas masks to their citizens. Yet my week was quiet and calm. And you may have heard during the recent violence in Israel that it's the worst we've seen since 2014. Well, that was rabbinical school. I had left the country only days before that violence had begun. Thus, I have never been in Israel when terrorist attacks threatened Israeli peace. I've never been in Israel when the dreaded sirens went off to warn of impending rocket fire, the Tseva Adom, the red alert that I've heard people say, red alert. And I've learned that in Israel, they make sure that children do not fear the color red because they associate the red alert. They actually have books that talk about the positivities of red, like Elmo. He's red. That's positive. So I can't imagine what it's like. I can't imagine what it's like for sirens to go off, warning that you have only seconds to reach a bomb shelter. I can't imagine the visceral response to those sirens, the terror. Having lived in Jerusalem, though, I did hear a different siren. Yes, the situation was mostly status quo during my year there, but there was still a need to let everyone know that peace is abundant by sounding a siren. In Jerusalem, a siren goes off every Friday evening to mark the beginning of Shabbat. It's called the Sfirat Shabbat, the Siren of Shabbat. And thank you to our Shinshinit Donna Koren who taught me that. Now that siren also stimulates a visceral response. However, that siren marks the beginning of true peace, the peace that Shabbat brings for the Jewish people. It signals, hey, everybody, it's cool. Rak lizrom achshav. Just go with the flow right now. Lizrom, go with the flow. Two very different sirens, two very different situations, two very different messages. Each governs week's Torah portion. You were all thinking that. It's found in the book of Numbers. They all said it. It's found in the book of Numbers, and we're focusing on chapters 9 and 10. And we read that the people of Israel would systematically be traveling through the wilderness. We know that we've traveled for 40 years, but it was done in a systematic way. They would travel in a giant caravan, and I don't mean like a minivan caravan, and certainly stretching miles. Imagine that caravan, stretching miles until they arrived in their new spot. And they would then unpack everything and set up their camp again. I usually liken it to the circus coming to town. Not to say that we're the circus, but, they come and then they unpack, they set up the tents. You know that the Jews are here. Yay! The Israelites. You know that we're here. So each tribe of Israel would set up their tents in designated areas. They would basically build a tent city, and then when it was time to move again, they would pack it all up and move in caravan once again. So they did this over and over and over, and it's how they spent their 40 years in the desert, packing, then unpacking, then packing, then unpacking. And one must ask, how is it, you had thousands of people, how is it that such a well-choreographed dance took place thousands of years ago for thousands of people over and over and over again? There were no microphones. There were no speakers. So Cantor Eicher wouldn't know what to do with yourself, probably, I would think.
Just go louder.
Just be louder, up to 11. Louder. So the solution was a trumpet, or rather many trumpets, 2 trumpets. These trumpets, they're different than shofars. Shofars are meant to be made, when we hear the term shofar, we know that they're meant to be made from the horn of a kosher animal and not made of bone. So when you see like a Viking drinking some mead from a bull's horn, not kosher, not a shofar. However, such animals that we usually use for our shofars, we use usually kudus, ibexes, and goats. They provide the proper horns for us. So shofars are mentioned throughout the Tanakh, but these trumpets, chapter 10 we read, have 2 silver trumpets made, make them of hammered work, and they shall serve you to summon the community and to set the divisions in motion. So these are actual trumpets, maybe not with the valves, but they're trumpets and not shofars, and their purpose is to communicate to thousands of people over great distances. And I don't know whether these were like giant trumpets a la like Ricola commercials, or whether they're... I was very upset when I was a kid. The commercial lied to me because they blew in the commercial and sound came out. And I tried a lot as a kid to different mass movements. If you're sitting down to a meal and you hear both trumpets blow, you know that you must join the entire community before the tent of meeting. But if only one trumpet is blown, maybe they're at different pitches, so you can tell. If only one trumpet is blown, then you know only the chieftains and the elders need to gather. You can just keep eating. If you hear, however, a series of short blasts, then you know that there's a signal that you need to move. There might even be trouble. So if you hear a series of short blasts and you live on the east side of the camp, the south side of the camp, you're a White Sox fan, and you know it's your turn. A third set of blast is for the tribes on the west side, and a fourth for the tribes of the north side, the Cubs fans. No offense. So God specifies the difference between the long blasts that signal that it's time to come, or a time of alarm, maybe war. Now at the heights on the shofar, these blasts are long blows and short blows, and they allow all of Israel, just as they did thousands of years ago, they allow all of us to move together as one, in one unit. It's the only way we survived in the wilderness for so long, and it's the way perhaps we've survived all these generations that we move together. The trumpet and shofar blast kept us united and in sync. This Shabbat, we have relative peace in Israel. This Shabbat, we have a ceasefire in place between Israel and Hamas. alarm or war. We're thankful that on this Shabbat there's only one siren ringing throughout Jerusalem. There's only the siren marking the beginning of Shabbat. There's only one siren indicating the beginning of peace. And it is now my honor, and I'm honored to be joined by my fellow clergy here, to invite the married people-to-be. Wait, let me through first.
Laura and Ben. First, I feel like I need to clarify that all the people in the sanctuary that my colleagues keep talking about
It's only like 5.
is not all the people. That there's your families who are here, those closest to you, to join you for this wedding blessing, which in essence tonight is the call, the trumpet blast that begins this very special weekend, a holy weekend for the two of you, in which you are called to the chuppah, in which you will make holy this union as you set one another apart for each other and make this special. And what an honor that we have had to be on the sidelines watching this relationship grow and develop, that we have been able to watch your love blossom, and that we will continue to be able to sit on the sidelines and watch the two of you grow and watch your family grow. And so as you come here for this blessing, may God, who blessed the men and women of Israel in every generation, bless the two of you, Laura and Ben, on the occasion of your upcoming wedding.
May God guide you on life's journey. May you fashion a Jewish home worthy of praise, a secure refuge where you find tranquility during all your days.
And may your marriage be a joy and a good example to all who know you. May your love for one another inspire and bless your family, friends, and community, and the world around you. As together we all say,
Amen.
Amen.
And as you stand here on this bima, tonight now the first of the very special blessings you will hear this weekend. Not only is it a blessing for Shabbat, the priestly benediction that parents and grandparents say or bestow upon their children, but also a blessing that you will hear once again under the chuppah this weekend, a blessing of hope, a blessing of peace that we hope you will carry with you as you journey now into this wonderful life together.
Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you both and keep you.
Ya'er panav elecha v'yasem. Ya'er panav elecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichudeka. I'm focused on my other stuff. May God's presence shine upon you and be gracious to you.
Cheer up.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God's presence surround the two of you, each as individuals and as a couple in your life, and may that presence of God in your lives bring to both of you shalom, peace, and shalem, wholeness. And to that we all say, Amen.
Amen.
And we say to the two of you, Mazal Tov, and hopefully all the shpilkis get out today, so that on Sunday it will be a most beautiful wedding. But it's a fitting blessing for the two of you. Mazal Tov. We look forward to the wedding this weekend and to watching the two of you grow together. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
On page 138, we are going to continue, and by the way, we're going to continue the wedding imagery, because Lecha Dodi, written by the great Payatan, Kabbalistic Payatan Shlomo Halevi Al-Kabez in the middle 1500s, wrote this as an allegory to the marriage between the people and Shabbat and God. And So we think about this wedding metaphor, but also when we ask the congregation to stand at the end, to turn around and to welcome the Shabbat, it will be akin to us turning about and welcoming the bride coming in a wedding to come forward. And something else you should know is that when we look back to that entrance and we look back to welcome the Shabbat, we are looking into our history and our heritage. Remember this. We are looking into our history and heritage, and as the Shabbat bride comes forward, they are moving forward and facing in the opposite direction. We look into our history and our past traditions. The bride represents the future, not just the future of herself and her marriage, but the portent of the future of the Jewish people.
And if you have a siddur at home, once again, we're on page 138. If you don't have a siddur at home, you can look look right in front of you. There should be a prayer book, and we're going to turn once again, page 138 for Lecha Dodi.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shmor v'zchor b'dibur echad, B'shmi'anu El HaMiuchad, Adonai Echad, U'Shemo Echad, Shemo Tiferet Ve'Tila, Echad Odi Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Echad Odi Likrat Kala, Shabbat nekabela. At Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, B'mekor haberacha, B'rosh mikedem, Nesucha, Sof ma'aseh b'machshavat tila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala,
You may rise
B'nei Shabbat nekabela.
and face the door.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom ateret ba'ala, Gam b'simcha uve'tzola, Toch emunei am segula, Boi chala, Boi chala. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela.
And we remain standing and we turn back toward the ark and we turn to page 146 in our prayer books for our call to worship, the Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamevorach. Adonai Hamevorach.
turn to the top of page 149, thanking God for bringing on this evening. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and seasons glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim. And at the top of page 151, we continue. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. And on page 152, we sing the words of the Shema. Turn to page 154 and we chant together the words of the Ve'ahavta.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavecha uvechol nafshecha uvechol meodecha vechayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, וברכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, וחיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך, ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אמן.
And we continue at the top of page 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness. That there's no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. And on page 158, we sing Mi Chamocha.
Kamocha baherim Adonai, Kamocha nehedar b'kodesh. Kamocha baherim Adonai, Kamocha nehedar b'kodesh. No kehilo, osei feleh. Kamocha baherim Adonai, Kamocha nehedar b'kodesh. Kamocha baherim Adonai, Kamocha nehedar b'kodesh. Nora ehilo, osei feleh malechutecha, ba'ufanecha, bokei hayam lifnei Moshe uMiriam. Nehedar b'kodesh. Nora kehilo, Ifata Adonai et Yaakov, U'e'alon yad chazak v'himen. Baruch atah Adonai God Yisrael. Kamocha baherim Adonai, Kamocha nehedar b'kodesh. Kamocha baherim Adonai, Kamocha nehedar b'kodesh.